What's up, guys? It's your boy Ollie here with another insider interview. Today we're talking with Kyra Santoro, and we're going to talk a little bit about her experience as an artist, and also as a model, and kind of an influencer in the beauty industry. So, do you mind just starting off by telling people how you would consider yourself like an insider in the world of fashion?
Yes. My name's Kyra Santoro. I started modeling at the age of 18, and I still currently do that as well. Social media kind of started to be a big thing when I was around 20 years old, and collectively just through brands and everything, my following grew. And I now have over 800,000 followers, which is amazing. I love every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for following me. And it transitioned into, acting and music and all these other facets of the industry, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've had, and I've been able to work in Europe and New York and Miami and LA and South America and all the islands, and I've just been able to have the most amazing career, and it's helped get my foot into the door as far as just with brands, whether it be in skincare and hair care and beauty and fashion and all the above. So it's been quite a wild ride, but I'm very happy to be here.
Hey, and it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
What were some of the things that really inspired you to get into modeling and stuff when you first did it?
So it's so funny when I get asked that question. I actually nothing really. A lot of people basically told me that I should model, and that's why I started modeling. So a lot of people were just like, you should model, and I thought I was going to go to school like my friends and kind of go that route of things, and then I went to open calls and I got signed, and then I got signed in New York, and then after that I got signed in Miami, and then I got signed in London. So then after that I was like, okay, I guess I'm a model now. Here I am doing my thing. I am doing it.
So, were you in high school then when you started modeling, or was it before you went to college?
It was literally the summer I graduated.
Okay.
I went to open calls that summer. I didn't even go to college. I literally just went straight into it.
Did you have plans to go to college and that just went so well, or you literally were like, no, this is my choice and I'm gonna see how this goes?
It was once I got signed and kind of started doing shoots and working, I did fall in love with it. It came very naturally to me. It felt easy to be in front of the camera. It felt easy to model, and I liked being on set, and it just grew into this burning passion that I just year after year was setting all these goals, and my goals were getting bigger and bigger, and then it just kind of formed into that. So it was once it started, it was like a match lit this candle and I couldn't put it out. I was like, all right, here we go.
That's amazing that you were able to find something that...
Oh, come here.
And who is this?
This is my dog. She came with us today, but she's all excited because we're at the park, so...
Hey, and what's her name?
Precious.
Precious. Got Precious too. So what was it that... Oh, no. Anyways, it was really cool that you were told by other people that it's something you should kind of pursue, and that you then found your own sense of calling within that.
Yeah,
and you
really
took that
awesome.
further. So what were some of those first goals and those first things? When was it that became your own vision? And what was that vision that you then adopted beyond just people saying, oh, you'd be good at this, that became that motivating factor?
It was almost instantaneous. Actually, it was almost just, it was once I got a small taste for it, it just became this snowball effect, and then I made a goals list, and then after I made a goals list and I actually saw something written on paper, I was unstoppable. It was just I couldn't stop at that point. I was like, all right, I'm in this, and this is what I'm gonna do, and this is what I'm working for, and I'm not gonna stop till I get there. And so it was very quick. It didn't even take time to blossom into a flower. It was just almost within the first couple jobs I got. Once I got those checks, I was like, okay. I was like, okay. This is what I'm doing.
So what were some of those goals that you actually accomplished since then, your proudest goals that you wrote down when you were first starting, that now you can say all right, I've done that?
So yeah, so it's so funny, my number one goal was to be in Sports Illustrated, and I got it.
Hey.
So I did that when I was 24. So it was amazing. That was my top goal, and I got it. I wanted to be in Maxim, and I shot for the cover of Maxim Mexico. So, and I was in US Maxim twice, but I was just in it. But I was on the cover of Maxim Mexico, so that was like pretty rad. And that was like on my top 5, so that was also super cool. I wanted to shoot for VS Pink, their econ, but I auditioned, like I went in and like did a casting twice, but I never got it. But to go into that studio and like wear the stuff and cast for it anyways was pretty cool. But yeah, I casted twice and didn't quite get it, but that was cool. I shot for this fashion magazine called V Magazine and did like this dope editorial where I was like body painted, so that was cool. I got a fashion magazine and like a high fashion one, so and all those things were like really in my top 5 goal list. I was like, I want to shoot for a fashion magazine, I want to shoot Sports Illustrated, I want to shoot for Maxim, and I think another one that I wanted to do was like Cosmo, but then I ended up being in L, which was also cool. So I was like, all right, whatever, it's all the same. Super cool. So yeah, all of them, like I pretty much accomplished like majority of my top 5, which is amazing to say. It's incredible to say. That's like so wonderful of a thing to be able to share with anyone, or even with my kids, or so I can't wait.
And especially at such a young age, because now you have so much more that you can still do.
I still have all the magazines. The second I have kids, I'm gonna be like, look at your mom. Look what your mom did. That's like super, I'm excited for that.
So now that you've accomplished those, what's kind of on your horizons now? Like what goals, career-wise, do you have for yourself?
So once I turned 25, it was like a shift, because I had started modeling at 18. And so it felt like I was like, okay, now I'm at this age where like when I was super young, it was so much more exciting, and it was like really fun, and it was just like, it was so crazy, and it was all over the place, and fashion week and like all of it was just so cool. And I still have such a deep rooted love for modeling, but my other interests started to get sparked, and so my other interest grew, which was like music. I've always loved music more than the average person, and I always wrote poetry, but I never thought to like write a song until I learned to write a song, and then I knew how to write a song, and then I started making music. And so music was something that it's definitely the thing that I do that I'm the hardest on myself, but it's the most rewarding. Because I love it the most, and I think it's the only thing in my life that I've done that it's really the only thing I've done that nobody was like, you should do that. Because with acting too, like I act as well now, and we're on hold because of COVID, but filming season 3 of the Orville and Fox, so that's like super awesome too, because I was on season 1 and 2, and so now it's season 3 as well. And with both modeling and acting, those were things that people were like, you should do this. You would be good at this. This is what you should be doing. I think you should do this. This is what you're meant for. And with music, nobody told me that, because I wasn't belting out singing in front of people. I wasn't sitting in a room and being like, nah, So it was something that was more like in my car, in the shower, and it was like more for myself. So writing has been another thing that's really just come out, like whether it's writing music for other people, writing poetry, writing whatever, it's all kind of come full circle. It's like being an artist, I'm sure you can agree, it's hard to just do one thing. You want to kind of like do everything, because it's just, that's what it's like. You're an artist, whether it's like drawing or painting or writing or singing or acting or modeling, whatever. It's like you feel this need to like want to do everything, or at least try it once,
Well, because once you can do something, you know you can do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like once you know you can do anything, that feeling is so powerful. You're like, ooh, I see how someone did that. Let me do that with my own flavor,
Yeah, and then it's like the ceiling, you're like, it's non-existent. You're like, oh wait, there isn't a ceiling. It's just like whatever limitation I put on myself. So let me just try something, and if I fail, then I fail, whatever. It's like, it's cool. There's this other thing that I do, and let me just try. You know?
I think that's a great point too, because oftentimes I've heard people talk about getting like writer's block and things like that. And I think the key to overcoming writer's block is stop writing. Then paint a picture.
Yeah, just do something else.
Do it like
for a second.
Do something, and allow your creativity to manifest in another form, because I think as humans can't help but constantly create something. It's just whether we're creating something consciously in our minds or whether we're creating something with our hands. Like, so if you get tired of creating one way, just create another way.
Absolutely. I totally agree, and that's the thing too. Like right now I'm also currently I'm writing a health and wellness book too, just about like keeping your body alkaline and like what foods to eat. I'm like a big advocate on I'm a pescatarian, but I eat like an alkaline diet, which like some fish is in an alkaline diet, and so I don't eat meat. Definitely try to steer clear of like dairy and things like that. As those things, like it ties into kind of like how I feel about the environment. Those things are like, you know, obviously the meat and dairy industry is like a big polluter of like CO2 emissions and stuff. So I'm writing a book about just, you know, keeping your body alkaline and healthy and like what foods to eat. And come here, girl.
Yes, stay healthy like Precious.
And things like that. And so that's like another thing that I'm doing as well. So some days I literally just wake up, I'm like, you know, today I'm gonna work on my book, or like today I'm gonna cut some demos, or you know, then it's just by day.
Well, and I think that's great that you have those outlets. And you were talking about like with the music, that it's the first thing that no one was telling you had to do.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to me that like with modeling or with acting, those are things where you are a cog in someone else's machine.
Yeah.
Whereas
100%.
with music,
Totally.
you have to come up with the blueprint of that machine.
100%.
And so it's a completely different like mindset. Whereas going from like, I'll say a passive player in like something to now all the decisions are you. You know, you're the one who has to decide, do I like the way that bass hits? Do I like the way that my voice sounds on that? Should I layer that? It's like, at the end of the day, all those choices come down to you.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see how, you know, being successful at something where you're kind of told what to do wouldn't have that same feeling of fulfillment as now being able to put out music that, you know, and when that becomes successful, when people listen to that and they're vibing to it, it's like, wow, I made that, I came up with that. I'm not just like filling a role for someone.
Yeah, especially like, I mean, I'm not quite to the like producing side of things yet. I co-produce everything that I've made though. Every single song I've ever made that anyone's ever heard, I wrote 100% of the lyrics, and I actually co-produced the whole thing because they are all my ideas brought to life. If I knew how to produce, I would literally be unstoppable, because I hear the entire song in my head when I'm writing it. Like I hear it's like orchestrated in my brain, but then it's communicating that to a producer to like have them actually make it is not always the easiest task. But yeah, if I knew how to full on use like Ableton or something and full keyboard and guitar, I would literally be like unstoppable.
I think that's the hardest part about making music, especially starting off, is learning how to talk about it. Because it's something that you just hear and it's like, I know it, but like,
I know the sound I want, but what's the word for that? I don't know.
That like squishy sound, you know, like, you know, and so that's one of the things that I definitely think, just taking the time to learn those things and taking the time, like especially even like you were saying, co-producing your own tracks, having that involvement. A lot of artists, they're like good to just be like, I'll just do my part, and they almost approach their music as a cog in someone else's machine, as a cog in the producer's machine, you know? And it's I
totally agree with that.
You got to be a co-artist with the producer, otherwise you aren't really going to come through in the track the way that you want to.
Yeah, and even just with like learning at home how to kind of edit my own vocals and stuff, it was like I was able to step into a session and say, oh, this needs, you know, reverb or like compression. I was able to be very specific and like, oh, can you EQ that? Like being able to say those terms was like such a big thing for me too, that I was able to do that. That was like a whole nother step. I felt like I leveled up. I went and I was like, I know what this needs. You need to put a DS around that. And I was like, you know, that was like a whole new wave. And so I was really happy to be able to do that.
Well, and it's funny because so many like religions and ancient cultures, they bring so much importance and power to words.
Yeah.
And it really is true, because you obviously are just as great a musician now as you were before. Like, you have that same spark and that same creativity within you, but just the fact that you know the words, now you're able to work better with other people, so the end result of what you make is better. It's like that extra magic that, and all it was a word, which is something that we came up with.
I know.
You know, like,
yeah, I mean, lyrically being able to like write stuff down, and like, I know that at least in the beginning, when I figured out that I knew how to, like, I was writing a poem and I'm like, oh, that would just be like a verse 1 of a song. Like, why didn't I think about that? Like, now I just need to come up with like a hook and a melody and a way to sing that. And so like that whole transition of that was so interesting, because it's like words always came easily to me, but I think it was like there was this block in my brain that I didn't realize, like, writing a poem is as simple as writing a song.
right.
You know? I'm like, oh, I'm just writing my feelings.
It's my personal experience getting into music was very similar with that, where I had been writing like poems and stuff for so long, and I never thought like, oh, this could be music. But then once I realized, I was like, oh, there's no stopping me now.
Right?
Like,
And I don't even remember who the first person was that was like, well, a poem basically is a song. Like, you're just writing, you wrote half of a song.
right.
And I was like, what? Like, light bulb? Wait, I've been writing songs this whole time. I've been writing songs for 4 years. Like, what? I didn't even know. And then it was just like, yeah.
I've been doing this.
And I'm like, I've been doing that, whatever. And so, yeah, once I figured that out, it was like a whole new world. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So now that you have found that power of being able to create and being able to take the reins on a project, what have you felt has been the most important, like, calling, or what have you been called to speak on with that? Like, what are like important causes to you, and things that you feel called to write about and talk about through your art and your music?
I feel so. I mean, I definitely write a lot about love. 100%. That's like sort of my main topic, but especially with what's been going on now, like a lot of demos I've been cutting are just really happy, because I'm like, okay, I know that people are kind of going through this up and down. It's been a weird time, obviously, for everybody, and I know it has. Like, I know I'm not the only one feeling this like up and down, bipolar type of a set of emotions since this whole thing has started. So I've just been really called to make very happy music, and whether I am writing about love or not, like, as long as it feels like a really happy song, you know. And so that's kind of lately been my no sad music. I haven't cut anything heartbreak, none of that. I'm like, happy songs that make people feel good, beats that make people feel good, pretty light, you know. And I guess my music's always kind of had that sort of vibe anyways. Sometimes I've gone a little bit like to a dark pop area, but mostly like my first project was like it was like an EP with like 3 songs, and like all of them were kind of R&B pop, and they were all, you know,
That was amazing about that.
vibey and like fun, and like, you know, so that was kind of the vibe. Was just like, I wanted fun R&B pop stuff to make people feel good and make them, like, if they're listening in their car, just kind of like, you know. And so, but definitely even more so, it's been almost compounded on me more that I feel this need to like make people smile right now, because I know how I feel, so I can only imagine how everyone else feels, you know. And I'm like a pretty positive person, so I'm like, I can't imagine how, you know, other people feel. And like, I deal with stuff too, you know, like I go through it, so just want to make everyone else. I've been making happy playlists and like posting them on my story. I'm like, listen to this if you need like a pick me up. And yeah, so making music that stays in that same feeling has been my biggest calling lately in the last, you know, couple months.
And that honestly is really amazing that you're able to step outside of yourself a little bit, in the sense of you're looking for what other people need to hear. Because I think a lot of times, and there's nothing wrong with it, some of the best music is when people are just like, you know, bearing their soul to the world. But at the same time, it takes a certain level of like maturity for an artist to realize like, okay, well, there's a reason why I'm doing this. Like, people are listening to this.
Yeah.
This isn't just like me in my room talking to myself.
Yeah.
Although that has its place too, you know, to really be able to tell people what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And to see that is great, and I'm glad that you're doing that for people, because it definitely is a crazy time, and we all could use a little bit of happy music in our lives.
Yeah, and some of those songs I do that, I'll bare my soul, but I'm like, those are for myself.
Yeah.
Whatever. Those are because I needed to get something off my chest. I had to get it off, you know?
Yeah, and you do need to do that for yourself, and I definitely know that some of the songs I relate to and that I felt really called to are like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you are relating those songs, it's not necessarily elevating you all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, when we as a culture are going through so much right now,
especially collectively, like,
Yeah.
we're all going, it's not like it's an individual problem, it's like it's a full-on like humanitarian problem, like it's everyone's kind of worldwide too. I mean,
yeah, it's not even just our country, it's like literally
it's
everywhere.
everyone. So it is important that it's like this feeling of like loneliness and isolation that people have because people can't be social is, you know, it's difficult to overcome. So it's like things like music and movies and photos and these things like bring people together and make people feel less alone. So it's like, you know, I know, like, I had a day recently where like the day before I wasn't having a good day, and then the next day like I had a great day, and my friend like was playing music in the car and I was driving, and he put on a song that I just remember I was just like vibing, and something clicked in me. I was just like, damn, like a song can really take, like, I was having a bad day yesterday and today my day was like good, it was fine, you know, but this song, like, I feel so good right now, like, just because of this song, and that's it. And it's that simple, really. So it's like translating that feeling, because I know from personal experience, I'm like, how good does it feel to have, even if you are having a bad day and you just happen to put on a happy song or it comes on shuffle, and then you're like, oh wow, okay, just lift my mood real quick, you know?
Right.
It's nice.
Music is very powerful.
It is very powerful. It's a very, very powerful thing.
I didn't understand when I was a little kid. My mom wouldn't let me listen to certain types of music, but like now that I've grown older, I'm like, wow, Mom, you were smart.
Yeah.
For real, because it's like you said, those emotions, they can take over, and it's really important to have music that elevates you to a place where you can help and you can be that difference, because we are all going through it and we need to all come together.
Yeah.
But as a world, there's like a lot of things that we're going through and we have to come together on all at the same time, which is kind of scary, but at the same time I think there's an opportunity here, because one of the words, and it was actually one of the first interviews that I did this year, was with a guy. His name was Keith from the Aware Studio, and he told me about intersectionality.
Okay.
And I think that that's so important right now, because it's the idea that like all of these things that we're like fighting for are all really important at the same time, and we need to find a way of like working for all of them without diminishing any one of them. Like, equality is super important. Like, we need equality on so many different levels, between different like genders, between different sexualities, between different races.
100%.
But like at the same time, so is environmentalism. And so is saving the earth. But it's like, we can't put one above the other. And at the end of the day, if we're going to make any of those, much less all of them, happen, we need to be in a good mental place. And having music like that elevates you is that fuel that we all need to help us keep going. It's like our coffee in the morning.
Absolutely. And it's hard too, because it's like, especially with, I mean, I've been like pretty passionately involved with everything going on right now, but my biggest battle has always been, I just feel like spreading awareness or getting people to generally give a shit about environmental stuff. It's like, it's so hard, and people, you know, will have their comments or say their things. It's like, oh, well, you're sitting here preaching all this stuff, but you're driving a gas car. And I'm like, okay, well, I have a car that I still pay car payments on, that I've had for 4 years. Like, what would you like me to do? Would you like me to go and get rid of my car that I still owe money on and buy, what do you want me to buy? A Tesla? Like, I don't, you know, I'm doing the best I can as far as like really raising awareness to people and telling them at least, you know, little things that can help. Like I'm always like start small, especially don't try to like go all in on something, but I always try to like tell people, you know, like, okay, don't use straws, or like don't use plastic cutlery, or just don't, you know, things like that. Very small things that makes such in 2020 I stopped buying plastic bottles completely. I don't buy any plastic bottles at all, none of them. Even if it's a drink I used to love, sucks, can't love it anymore, that's it. Like that's that. Like I buy glass bottles, things that can be recycled, aluminum can be recycled, all of it. So I'm like, that's that, you know. But those are little things that I try to like share with followers and tell people. And you know, it's hard because people will always have something to say, even if you're just, I'm just trying to help. Like I'm just trying to help raise awareness. These are such small things that clearly there's a plastic problem within our globe. There is a huge plastic problem that we have not solved yet, you know. And that's such a huge issue for me. That's like something that I'm very, 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 very passionate about. And when this whole movement came about too, and it's like all these issues I stand by and I'm very passionate about them too. But I've been sitting here preaching so many things for so long. Like ethnically I'm considered a minority already. I'm Latina, so I'm like, I'm considered a minority, so I'm like, you know, these are things with gender, with LGBTQ community, with everything. It's like these issues are very, very important, you know, but there's so many together and they all kind of ride under an umbrella of just like making humans more aware. At its simplest form, every single issue is just making humans more aware, because some people just don't know the information.
Right.
It's that simple. It's really that simple. Some people just don't know. They weren't taught. They don't know. They don't take the time to look up and educate themselves. And it could be any of the issues under the entire umbrella going on right now. And some people just aren't educated, you know?
Right. And I think all of it comes down to just really looking outside of yourself, and like you said, awareness. And that's what awareness is you have to be aware of what's going on outside of you and yourself. Like, yes, maybe in your bubble things are a certain way, maybe those things that you hear on the news apply to you in your bubble, but it's like, do they really apply to everything everywhere? Are you listening to the people who aren't in your bubble? Are you giving them a chance to actually speak? Are you giving them the benefit of the doubt, you know? But I really like what you were saying about with the environmentalism, how, you know, maybe some people would kind of be hard on you because you still drive like a gas car. But that's the thing with especially environmentalism or any of these things, is change is something that comes gradually. You can't force anything like harshly, and sometimes if you do, the end result could be not even beneficial because it was forced, and so then it doesn't allow time for it to grow and build harmoniously.
I think like little by little, if you do anything, like even when I was like cutting meat out of my diet, I didn't just like one day be like, I'm not gonna eat meat anymore. I literally, like, first I cut out pork, and then I cut out red meat, and then I cut out I was still eating like turkey bacon and like chicken and like turkey with some stuff, because I felt like I had this attachment because of like Thanksgiving for some reason with turkey. I don't know why, but so I actually cut out like the last day that I either one, I was like, I got a salad and I had chicken in it, and I got like one of those like chewy pieces of chicken with like a tendon in it, and I was like, ugh. And I was like, today's the last day. Like I already don't eat, you know, like red meat and pork right now. I'm just kind of eating like turkey bacon sometimes and chicken. So like, what's the big deal? Like I might as well. So that was like the last day, but it was such a gradual cutout. And so now it's been like about 5 years that I haven't had meat at all, which is amazing and great. But
Congrats.
But those are things that are like, I did that gradually. So everything, like it just started in 2020, not buying any plastic bottles anymore, you know. But before that, I've been like not using straws for a while, and even when I go somewhere and they only have the option of like a plastic cup, I like won't get a lid and I will not get a straw. Like I'm just like, okay, if I have to use a plastic cup because I need water and I'm dying and I don't have a water with me, I don't have a hydro flask with me, and I'm at a restaurant and this is their only option, then like I'm gonna minimize it as best as I can because I don't have another option. So I don't need a lid, and no, I don't need a straw. Thank you though. Like I'm just gonna hold the cup and I'm gonna drink it like as if I'm drinking a glass of water.
Facts.
And so that's like kind of a way that I've gotten around that, because I've also gotten some shit about that. People being like, oh, well, I still see you use a plastic cup at this place. I'm like, yeah, well, Sweet Green only gives plastic cups. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, Sweet Green only gives plastic cups, and I came to get a salad and I had no water and I'm so thirsty. Should I just deprive myself of water? What should I do, guys? I'm doing the best I can, okay? I didn't get a top and I didn't get a straw, okay? Like, I'm doing the best I can.
That's the other thing that's like, it's so much different when you're at the level where like you have as many followers as you do,
and people
like,
can criticize you. There's always
one
some,
person
yeah.
who's
There's
gonna be
always
that
something
asshole.
to criticize, and I'm like, I'm doing the best I can, okay?
But I think the general point is when you're doing any of these changes, whether you're trying to become more understanding of friends that you have that have a different view than you do, whether you're trying to become more sustainable in your choices, any of these things, you really need to be gentle with yourself.
Yeah,
and
100%.
don't judge yourself, and don't let other people judging you affect you, because if you let other people, if you were to let those people judging you stop you from making the few decisions that you've been making, or having the voice that you have to speak on these things,
Yeah.
then that wouldn't be benefiting the cause.
Yeah,
that would
at
just
all.
be harming it. Which is another thing too, if anyone does feel the need to call people out or like do any of that stuff, think about how your actions are going to have an effect on others. It's that awareness, you know? If someone reacts to your actions, is it going to be a reaction that will even benefit the cause that you're going for? Because otherwise, why would you say something like that?
I don't always respond to people, but like once in a while I will, and I'll just kind of tell them where I will say, hey, listen, yeah, I might, you know, like the example of having a plastic cup at Sweet Green, because that's they only have plastic cups there. They don't give you like another option, and it's like a to-go cup. They literally don't even have like in-house. I don't know why they don't, because Sweet Green's a huge chain. No clue why that's the case, because they give you a bowl, they'll take your bowl away, but they give you like a to-go. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. So somebody called me out about that because I took a picture of my salad and they saw my cup, and they're like, oh, Miss Anti-Plastic, you have a plastic cup. And I told this guy, I said, if you notice in the picture, I didn't grab a top and a straw. I also do not buy, you know, any plastic bottles of any sort. I only buy glass bottles. I don't use any plastic cutlery at all whatsoever. I only use like metal or like sustainable, anything that's like, you know, wood or bamboo, whatever. Like I use sustainable, and I will like wait if they only have an option of a plastic utensil. I actually like will wait till I get home. Like I won't even eat it there. And like I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take it to go.
Right.
Like so I can minimize that one. It's that one small thing. I'm like, well, my home's not that far. It's 10 minutes away. I'll go home and use a metal fork at home, and that's that. You know. So I make it a really serious point with certain things. I make it a very serious point with the straws. I do not use straws. Like I make that's such like there are certain things that are like I stand firm with, and I'm not perfect, I can't do everything, but I am doing the best I can, especially at my house, as far as like buying things around the house that are just like, you know, reusable and or recyclable in general, because I'll reuse things. I'll reuse jars like that my coconut oil comes in, like I reuse the jars, and so there's a lot of stuff that I do like that. Yeah.
Do you have any particular like favorite sustainability hacks or things that you've learned to do since you've started being more conscious of that?
I have friends that like make stuff. Like one of my girlfriends, she does like coconut oil and like her coffee grinds, and she uses it in the shower as like a body scrub, which is like super easy, especially for coffee drinkers. I unfortunately don't drink coffee, but like I don't, you know, use that. But there's like brands that you can buy that from too, and they package their stuff in recyclable things. You can make face masks at home. You can make face scrubs with brown sugar and coconut oil. There's so many options that you can do now. Even though there's so many options that you personally, like we can personally do, it's still very difficult because there's so many brands that are so slow to get on board, as far as like even just the simplicity of their packaging when they send something to you. Recently I just bought like this recyclable kind of like body loofah, and bamboo toothbrushes from a company called Package Free, and not a sponsored post, but I just bought it from them, and I liked that they were fully like a sustainable store. As far as like if I go to the grocery store, I like bring my own like reusable bags, and that's what I put like my vegetables in and stuff like that. So that's like another thing that you can do, just minimizing like using the plastic bags at the grocery store. There's so many options that you can do. I think it's hard because in general, just plastic and the way that we do things here, it's like everything is so convenient and so easy, and that's why it's so hard for people to let go, because it's the convenience of a plastic water bottle and just toss it, the convenience of drinking out of a straw and not being like more careful drinking it like it's a cup, the convenience of like getting it back. Like even if I go to CVS, if I only have like a couple of things, like and they're like, oh, I'm like, don't bag it, it's fine, I'll carry it to my car, it's okay, like I do not need you to bag that. So
I will look like the craziest man carrying like 50 million things. They're like, you need a bag? No, I swear, I'm good.
I'm good. I don't need a bag. Yeah. If I can make that difference, so I'm not using a bag, then I'm making the difference of like one less bag.
Right. And I think that's a great point, is especially with environmentalism, but really with any of these things, in order to make a change, you do have to put yourself in a position of feeling somewhat uncomfortable. You're sacrificing some of your comfortability. Convenience.
The easy convenience. That's what you're sacrificing, which is like...
Because the easiest thing is to do what you've always done.
Yeah.
And that might not be the best thing, though, in the long run for you or for anyone else.
1,000%. So yeah, it is the convenience of like how we've always done things, sort of, is what makes it,
Right. Well, thank you so much, Kyra, for coming and talking with us today. We talked on some really great subjects that are really important to me as well as you, that I think, everyone should be a little bit more tuned in with.
Yes.
As well as fashion. It's great to look fly, it's great to, be beautiful and represent that.
Buy vintage.
Big facts. Buy vintage. If you go buy something...
Okay, maybe not my boots, but like this, I bought at Wasteland.
This is like, the sickest shirt, by the way.
I bought it at Wasteland. Yeah, this, like, my shorts are vegan leather.
Where do you get those from?
This is like a brand in, I think they're made in Indonesia, but I think it's an Australian brand. But yeah, it's vegan leather shorts. Right. So I'm like, buy vintage.
Buy vintage for sure, because
reusable fashion, baby.
And you can get shit that's like leather and all those other things that you want, but it's not actually affecting like the cycles of things. Like that's the thing, is like 100%. Clothes last for so long.
I know. They like some clothes, like literally there's still, if you throw clothes away, they're still alive and well. If you throw things in the garbage, your shirts and stuff, like give it to Goodwill. Give it to Salvation Army. Please do not donate clothes. Donate to a women's shelter. I just did that literally last week. It wasn't even that much stuff. And I told them, I was like, I'm sorry, I know it's not a lot of stuff, but I was going to give it to Goodwill, and I just felt like I should give it to a women's shelter instead. Gave it to a women's shelter. During Christmas time, I always give clothes downtown in Skid Row to the like missions down there. So things like that. And it's like, they will use them.
And that's
they will use them. Like,
because clothes, pretty much any clothes nowadays, if you throw them out, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to go to a landfill or they're going to be incinerated. And the way that we produce clothes now, there's so many chemicals in them, from the pesticides that they're grown with to the chemical dyes that are used, that when those things are in the landfills or incinerated, that then becomes toxic waste that goes into our environment. 100%. So when you buy that cheap $2 t-shirt at H&M that only lasts you a week and then you have to throw it out, recognize that you're putting toxic waste in the environment when you toss that in the trash. So it's a lot better to buy vintage, and not only that, buy quality things that you will keep for a long time.
A lot of my clothes I keep for a long. Like I still have some stuff that I've had for like a lot of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than
and
that,
there's
I
like
donate.
this like stigma against it almost in America, I feel like. But honestly, I don't see why, because it's having a piece. If a piece stands with you for so long, that just makes it a better piece.
Yeah,
in my
it's
opinion.
like special. Yeah.
So
100%.
Well, thank you so much again.
Thanks
it was
for
a pleasure.
having me.
And hey, maybe we'll get together and we'll do like a little video on how to do some of those face masks that you were talking about.
Yes,
sometimes.
100%. I would love that.
Thank you guys for joining us. You heard it here first. Have a good one.
Peace.
Say bye, Precious.
Say bye-bye.
You go save the planet too.
My sweet girl, I'm
That
sorry.
was awesome.
She was like crying and crying. My sweet
You did
girl.
so